Hello, believers, non believers, and everyone in between. You're listening to Stories with Sapphire. I am Sapphire Sandalo. Now get cozy and open your mind because it's story time. This week's episode is sponsored by Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50sapphire and use code 50sapphire to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. The Seventh Stranger, submitted by Hero. This takes place in Angeles City in the Philippines in 2018. I was in the final semester of my architecture major. For privacy reasons, I will be omitting the name of the university. This university has always vehemently denied any negative supernatural experiences on campus. Still, most of its graduates swear there was something more sinister lurking behind its gates. It was also a Catholic school, so stories like these were considered taboo and could easily tarnish their reputation. I was in my early 20s, in my final semester of college. My friends and I were finishing up our last submissions for graduation. To fulfill some remaining credits, we enrolled in digital photography and editing. We were assigned to do night photography of architectural spots, which meant staying on campus well past dinner time. By then, we were pretty familiar with the rumors that floated around about the university. The ghost of a dead janitor who haunts the high school building and rummages through chairs after students set them up for the next day. The 7th floor of the arts building is apparently home to a secret black market for contraband. And let's not forget the ghost lady who supposedly enjoys listening to the school chorus from the 3rd balcony of the nursing building. The list goes on. We knew all the stories, so naturally, we tried to wrap up as quickly as we could. It's always a coin toss with the supernatural, to be honest. As for me, I was just trying to avoid any unwanted encounters, especially with thesis season in full swing. Ghosts? Sure, but not until I finished my own thesis, which, let's be real, was already haunting me enough. Unfortunately, by the time we were done with the shoot, it was already late in the evening. The university is usually still open at these hours due to college extracurricular activities and the occasional evening class schedules. The architecture department's editing studio was suddenly unavailable for that evening due to maintenance, leaving most of us scrambling to find a place to edit our shots. We ran into the guest lecturer in the faculty office, who sighed and said, "I'll coordinate with the faculty members of the nursing department. I think their computer labs are still available." One of my classmates, Isaiah, shrugged nervously and said, "Can it not be the nursing building, sir? You know the stories about that place. Even the security guards are scared of it. Especially the 6th floor." The nursing building was a smaller side annex to a larger museum complex on campus. Tucked between 2 bigger buildings that came out of the school's expansion, it was one of the unlucky ones that didn't make the cut. It was also one of the smallest and least used buildings on campus, largely because of the College of Nursing. Nursing students were usually absent at this hour due to their hybrid setup: classes on campus, internships off campus in hospitals. So the building was basically empty, aside from a few cleaning staff and the occasional security guard. It had several classrooms and laboratories spread across 6 floors, usually shared with other departments, all connected by a single small elevator, a notoriously creepy one. In the evenings, the guards would turn off all the lights in the building to save on electricity, except for the area right in front of that elevator, which they used during their rounds. The professor just ignored our protests, leaving us to stew in our own conversation and growing sense of dread. He showed up with a grin, keys in hand, and ushered us to move buildings. We secured a laboratory on the 3rd floor, which, thankfully, was lit at the time, thanks to a request from our professor. We even used the creepy elevator. It could only carry 6 passengers at a time and even had a capacity sensor if it went over. We took turns commenting on its yellowing walls and the mildew stains slowly creeping in. I even joked, well, let's just hope that turning off the lights to save money pays off, because this thing really needs an update. I feel like it's about to give up any second now. We laughed, trying to keep a lighthearted vibe despite our earlier concerns. We arrived on the 3rd floor, edited and submitted our projects without a hitch, and we were ready to hightail it out of that old building. It was already 11 p.m., and we were zoning out after an exhausting day. This class, stacked on top of everything else, had drained whatever energy we had left. All we wanted was to crash somewhere, anywhere. We took the elevator again, not even glancing at the digital display above the doors as it blinked. Up. We just stepped in without thinking, packing ourselves into that claustrophobic box, our tired bodies wrapped in half-hearted chatter. The elevator hummed and creaked to life. 4th floor, 5th, then the 6th. A chime echoed, a sharp ding that snapped through the silence. What greeted us was a dim hallway, lit only by the pale glow spilling from the elevator behind us. It was liminal to the point of eeriness, so still and silent we could hear crickets chirping from the open balcony at the end of the corridor. Everything was draped in shadow. Everything was draped in dread. It was empty, yes, but not the kind of empty that brings relief. It was the wrong kind of empty, the kind that makes your skin crawl, the kind that whispers, everything here is about to get you. My fight or flight response was teetering on the edge, except there wasn't a shred of fight in me. We stood there, frozen, staring down the long hallway dotted with classroom doors, trying to process what was happening. One of my friends whispered, "Wait, were we supposed to go down?" I glanced at the digital screen above the elevator, just to be sure. 6th floor. We were on the 6th floor. Anything but the 6th floor. I swallowed hard, eyes scanning my classmates' uneasy faces. No one moved. I tried not to look back toward the open elevator doors. Didn't want to risk it. I don't even know why, but I just knew I shouldn't take a second look. I was terrified of what I might see if I did. Yeah, we were. I pressed G, okay? I stammered, eyes flicking to the buttons. Someone must have called it from here. Probably a guard or something. But even as I said it, I felt a cold breeze drift into the elevator, sending the hairs on my neck straight up. The capacity sensor. I started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just 6. There were only 6 of us. My panicked mind straightened out the facts. The elevator was past its capacity. There was a 7th person in the elevator, and it won't go down. Silence. One of my friends, Isaiah, clung to me, eyes shut tight, burying his face into my sleeve. I could feel him shaking, feel the wet spot from his tears soaking through. He was whispering the Our Father between broken sobs. My other classmate, the one closest to the panel, was freaking out, slamming the close button over and over, but the doors wouldn't move. They stayed wide open, like we were being offered up to whatever was waiting out there, or worse, whatever had already gotten in. The other 3 behind us were freaking out too, whispering fast, trying to keep it together. I heard someone start crying back there. I couldn't bring myself to look up. I didn't want to see who was next to me. My body refused to move. My eyes stayed locked on the floor, avoiding the hallway, avoiding the doors, avoiding everything. I couldn't even breathe right. Every instinct I had was screaming that something was wrong, that someone in here didn't belong, that the 7th person wasn't one of us, and we were trapped with it for God knows how long. Screw it, run! The shout ripped through the tension like a gunshot. It was my classmate, the one still hammering the elevator buttons. My head snapped toward him just in time to catch a red blur beside him. Too vague to make sense of, but I swear I felt as though it also reacted from what my classmate had said, because it suddenly felt worse inside the cramped space. And then my body just moved. I bolted out of the elevator and into the dark hallway, barely able to see a thing, heart pounding so loud it drowned out everything else. The only light came from the moon, casting long, warped shadows that didn't help at all. Isaiah was right behind me, gripping my hand tight. I remember shouting, "Just keep running!" And he nodded, wiping his face with his free hand as we pushed forward. Behind us, I could hear the girls screaming and scrambling, footsteps echoing in chaos. And then everything blurred. Panicked breaths, pounding feet. I don't even remember reaching the stairs, just that we ran, like our lives depended on it. Because they did. We still talk about that night whenever we get together. These days, we mostly laugh about it, throwing in bits of skepticism to ease the tension. Maybe the elevator was just so old it couldn't handle 6 people anymore, especially on that floor. Maybe the guard pranked us? You know how Monong likes to mess with the pretty girls. Or maybe one of you accidentally pressed 6 and the thing just glitched because it's ancient. It's become one of our go-to ghost stories. But if there's one thing I still remember, like really remember, it's the fear. The kind that sticks in your bones. Isaiah's hand gripping mine like a lifeline, his tears soaking through my sleeve. The way my body ran on instinct without thinking. And that one flash of red by the panel. The blur we all noticed, the one we never talked about directly. Like acknowledging it might make it real. And that is the story of the 7th stranger. Thank you, Hero, for yet another incredible story. So the question that immediately comes to mind after hearing a story like this is, do ghosts have weight? I tried to find physics facts about light and mass and all of that, but I won't even pretend to have anything super insightful to say here because I kept finding conflicting things. So if anyone listening does have interesting facts about this, shoot me an email. But I will say that if people can feel and touch ghosts, many people on the show have, then why can't a ghost weigh enough to trigger an elevator like this? Now, I don't know if you guys actually felt a shift in the elevator when you were in there, or if it was just the sensor. Because the thought I had was maybe whatever ghost was there triggered the sensor to scare you guys. I imagine that would take much less energy to manifest. Either way, I love stories like this. Super spooky.